criticizes it. And some going as far to say, y'all don't care about Palestine, y'all just care about canceling celebs. But again, all of this, as others then argue, no, it is effective. With reports saying that Taylor Swift, for example, lost 300,000 followers on TikTok and 50,000 on Instagram over the last week, which is a lot, but also a little compared to her overall audience, but the movement there is still new. You also have others noting that some stars have now spoken up, with the likes of Lizzo posting TikToks in the past couple of days saying things like,
"This video is long overdue, but I just want to take a second and give a personal thank you to all of the activists who have been working tirelessly to help the liberation and the freedom of the people who have been genocided all over the world, specifically Palestine, Sudan, and the Congo. You have helped so many people. You have saved literal lives. And on a personal note, you have activated me."
With that then getting different reactions, right? Some have slammed Lizzo, saying that the timing makes her videos look performative. But then others, saying, well, wait, she is speaking up about what we wanted her to speak up about. Isn't that the point of the movement? But then a lot of people finding themselves in a different version of the debate that we cover, in other avenues. Is it more about inspiring and generating change, or is it about punishing people? But then that breaking down into a messier conversation around like the intent behind one's actions. Are they genuine or not? With everything we've talked about here, and maybe that you've seen so far online, I gotta ask, what are your thoughts about this whole situation? And then YouTube wants to get MrBeast an Emmy. Though it goes beyond Jimmy, YouTube wants a slice of the award show pie. Because YouTube CEO Neil Mohan just wrote a guest column in The Hollywood Reporter titled, "It's Time for the Emmys to Embrace Creators," arguing that there are major personalities on YouTube that make content of a high enough caliber to be recognized there. Right. Also, to give some explanation, the Emmy Awards specifically honor television, not to be confused with the Oscars, which is just for movies. And Neil wrote that a lot of people may not realize how many YouTubers are influential in TV, explaining you might not expect MrBeast to stand on the same stage as Jeremy Allen White, right? And not just because post-divorce Jeremy's outside randomly doing push-ups on the side of the road when paparazzi show up, a natural and very real moment. But Neil continuing, if you think creators are just recording vlogs from their bedrooms, then I have some big news. Creators have writers' room, production teams, and business strategies. They're developing programming that's not just popular and relevant, it's breaking boundaries. And adding that because creators are defining a new era of entertainment, they deserve the same acclaim other creative professionals get, especially since it would better reflect what audiences are watching, right? Noting that when people sit down on the couch to watch TV, they often pull up YouTube. So if the Emmys really want to celebrate the best of TV screens, they have to be in the mix. With Neil also saying, some might argue that broadening the primetime Emmys to include consideration of creators would detract from its storied history or lessen its cultural significance. But recognizing the work of creators is the best way for the Television Academy to continue its legacy of honoring modern culture. It will add to the celebration by including everyone who deserves consideration, and saying that down the line, the Emmys could even add more categories so a wider range of content could be included. As far as what content should be in the conversation, he pointed to Hot Ones as one of the most popular talk shows right now. Sean Evans has been constantly praised as one of the greatest celebrity interviewers right now. So, it would make sense that people want to honor that. Neil also pointing to Rhett and Link's Good Mythical Morning as a groundbreaking variety program. And notably, while categories for the Emmys are subject to change, there are already categories for talk shows and variety shows. Hosts for them can be nominated as well. Plus, you can go even further, right? There are categories for competition programs. That's something that MrBeast content might fit into. Obviously, with this, eligibility rules would also have to likely expand to fit all this in, which is why Neil kind of made this case, further adding, creators are the new Hollywood. If creators are not acknowledged by the Emmys, then we should ask ourselves if the awards represent the future of TV or just its past. If viewers aren't discriminating between these categories, then neither should the Emmys. But with all that said, I gotta ask you, what are your thoughts here? Whether it be including online creators in already existing categories, expanding out, will there be a future where a Meat Canyon video beats out an episode of The Simpsons? Some of those videos are getting 10 million views. It will be interesting to see if we see growth here, or if we'll see further disconnect and things like the streamies carrying more weight, over time. But again, I'd love to know your thoughts here. And then the news around AI over the past 24 to 48 hours is wild. And while yesterday was primarily about OpenAI and GPT-4o, the focus on all of its advancements, including that it has a voice that sounds like it wants to have sex with you a little bit.
Oh, a bedtime story about robots and love? I got you covered.
What I want to talk about today is the potential carnage that we're about to see. Because right now we're seeing reports like that from the Washington Post saying, hey, if you have a website, expect a pretty bad time. Right? And that because Google, far and away the most widely used search engine on earth, is making changes. With one of the biggest that we're talking about today being the company's slow rollout of what it's called Search Generative Experience, or SGE. Basically, SGE, it's a way of integrating chatbot functionality right into the search engine. So you ask a question and you get back an AI-generated answer. And Google, they've been testing these AI answers publicly regularly for the past year, showing them to a small percentage of its users as it tries to improve the technology. But today, Google announced its official launch of SGE along with some new features. And so with that, hundreds of millions of searchers will reportedly gain access to AI overviews this week and over 1 billion by the end of the year. And creators and web publishers are understandably worried. That's because these so-called AI overviews created by SGE, they push their website links further down the page where they're less likely to be seen. And that's even as the information in those overviews are often paraphrasing directly from their websites. And in fact, they sometimes even lift phrases word for word. This is an issue that we've talked about before. But the fact that not only Google, but also OpenAI, Meta, and Microsoft have trained their AI models on millions of news articles, blog posts, and so on, most all of which were scraped from the internet without paying or asking permission of their original authors, which of course has also led to a whole slew of lawsuits. But because so many websites rely on Google for traffic, SGE presents a whole new set of concerns. And so all in all, its rollout potentially threatens the survival of millions of creators and publishers who rely on Google for website traffic, with some experts arguing that the addition of AI will boost Google's already tight grip on the internet, and even further, quote, usher in a system where information is provided by just a handful of large companies. Which actually, to that point, tech research firm Gartner predicts traffic to the web from search engines will fall 25% by 2026, with Raptive, a media company that works with creators, estimating that changes to search could result in about $2 billion in losses to creators, with some websites losing up to 2/3 of their traffic. And for example, you have Kimber Mathern. They run a major online recipe blog. They're a client of Raptive, and she says that 40% of visits to her website still come through Google, telling the Post their goal is to make it as easy as possible for people to find the information they want. But if you cut out the people who are the lifeblood of creating that information, that have the real human connection to it, then that's a disservice to the world. So with that, I should also note that Google executives have said that they're rolling out SGE in a, quote, measured way and prioritizing traffic to websites and merchants. But that, of course, hasn't assured website owners. With, for example, a personal trainer by the name of Jake Bali telling the Post that even its limited rollout so far has coincided with traffic from Google to his website dropping 96%. So with that, noting that it hasn't stopped Google from referencing his website in its AI summaries. Right? And so a big perceived problem right now is that people are only reading Google's summary and they don't visit the site. But then also with this, there's the other big thing. Is this actually going to be helpful for the consumer, right? Right? Because if something is convenient, it saves someone time, that's seemingly a win for the consumer. But with that, besides potentially disincentivizing content creation and information sharing, AI still regularly makes mistakes. With, for example, one review by the Post finding that, quote, Google's AI answers were long-winded, sometimes misunderstood the question and made up fake answers. And while, of course, this technology is in its early stages, problems are to be expected, you still have people concerned. But as we wait to see what happens from here, the one thing that we know for sure is that the landscape of the internet, it's going to change. I mean, it is actively changing right now. It's just that the painting isn't finished yet. We don't have the full image in front of us. And it's only then we'll fully realize who has been helped and who has been hurt. And then it is that time of year again. Travel, water destinations, tropical destinations, or just plain old staycations. And what do you need for any of these? A great pair of shoes that can handle any type of weather. And basically, thanks to the fantastic and longtime partner of the PDS, Vessi, the weather doesn't need to control what you do. I'm personally loving my Vessi Stormburst low tops at the moment. They're easy to slip in and out of. These sneakers, they just provide me freedom to do just about anything all day, no matter the elements. And then I can also just keep wearing them while I take my beautiful wife out, for example, to Mother's Day dinner. And that's not a concession. There's no judgment because it just still looks good. And also reliable is the word that comes to mind when I think of Vessi. Right? They're ideal for any occasion, but especially when you find yourself around water, coastal walks, exploring outside the city, forests, camping, snowy days, boating, heading out early on damp mornings, washing your car. The list goes on. So what are you waiting for? Just go to Vessi.com/DeFranco to get 15% off your first order. Also, I say take a minute to browse their site. They got a lot of awesome, like Vessi's super sleek Astoria backpack. It's also 100% waterproof, pretty much like anything Vessi, and it's not just the sneakers. Check it all out at Vessi.com/DeFranco. And then a worm got into my brain and ate a portion of it and then died. Right? Those are the now infamous words of Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the other presidential candidate, with him revealing in a recently discovered court document from 2012 that in addition to mercury poisoning from too many tuna fish sandwiches, a parasitic tapeworm made his mind a home. Right? And now he claims that he's fully recovered from the resulting memory loss and fogginess. But here's the thing, while everyone was making fun of him and they were memeing about this, right, because having worms in your brain, it just sounds weird, I have to actually defend RFK Jr. a little bit. Right? Because when you actually take a second to dig into this a little deeper, it turns out he's not alone. In fact, the World Health Organization estimates that more than 1.5 billion people, or just about a fifth of humanity, are infected with parasitic worms, making them one of the most widespread yet severely neglected causes of disease on Earth. But also, before we go any further, I should warn you that while this is interesting, we're going to be delving into some very, very nasty stuff. So if you're eating dinner or something, maybe come back to this part later. Otherwise, for the rest of y'all, let's open up this can of worms. Fuck you, that pun's intended. Starting with, let's just get this out of the way right off the top, some mind-blowing worm facts. facts, like how they can grow up to 80 feet long and live in a human for up to 30 years, depending on the species. Also, what kind of worm segment would this be if I didn't throw some of the grossest, most terrifying ones at you? Like guinea worms, for